It's December 3rd, 2019. It's like 5:30 in the morning Central Time. I'm here in Texas. Yeah. So I'm in tears the last several minutes. I was reading about slave markets in the United States. You know, it's funny. New Orleans is the largest. New Orleans was the largest slave market just as a city. There were dozens of them throughout New Orleans. The first slave ship arrived in North America in 1619 in August. I believe it was August. That's one thing I'm going to do is see if there's a date of arrival. Well, in 1619, now it's 2019. That's 400 years ago. 400 years ago, this year, not last year, this year. And when you start to look at it in that context, against Genesis 15, it becomes pretty clear. I think it's Genesis 15:12 to 14. Where Moses wrote in the first chapter of the fucking Bible that 400 years, I don't know the exact wording, but 400 years will you be enslaved and trampled upon. And after 400 years, then you'll leave with your reward. Well, that 400 years started in August, and it's now December. And the 400th year lasts until August of 2020. Again, not sure on the dates. So that would mean that this book gets dropped in the 400th year of slavery, anniversary of slavery in the U.S., or in North America, sorry. Now you talk about a coincidence. And when you start to put together the New Orleans component to the book, both of my story and my brother's story, you start to see something a little bit bigger than just two guys, two brothers. You start to see the bigger picture. And just as the Jews were released from captivity after 400 years, so shall African Americans, in conjunction with Muslims, in conjunction with every enslaved people. See, even though slavery is over, the repercussions, they linger. And I think about Wall Street. The actual wall on Wall Street was built by slaves. The industries that benefited from slavery, from the medical industry, legal industry, clothing, food, etc., etc. And I think about creation of jobs today, and how our 40-hour work week, our 8 hours a day, is a modern form of slavery, which doesn't allow for people to explore and grow because they're too busy sprinting in that hamster wheel. This is why Revelation describes 1/3 of our days and nights destroyed because we're working 1/3 of them, 8 of 24 hours a day. All credit goes to God, the king of the fucking jungle, the king of the universe. Loving God breaks the bonds after 400 years of pain, captivity, and all the other bad shit wrapped into the idea of one person controlling another. And he does it with grace, because he's a gentleman. So here I am thinking about these things at 5:15 on December 3rd. You know, the first is the beginning of the 10 Commandments. It's, I am the Lord, thy God. I'll screw the words up. Moses captured them much better than I could ever repeat them. And he spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord God, Lord thy God. Brought you out of bondage and captivity. Oh, man. And then he goes into the 10 Commandments. And when you start to look at the 10 Commandments like that, in terms of breaking fucking the bonds of slavery, then you start to see their relevance rush back in full force in 2019. And the interesting thing is, the deadline of July 20th, 2020 falls at the tail end of the 400th year. See, Moses he didn't say, a particular date after 400 years. Although, I could be wrong on that, I haven't actually looked. But we're in that 400th year until, I guess it's August is when the first slave ship arrived in North America. You put that component, and all of a sudden the concept of having Wynton Marsalis and Nasir Shamma on stage on August 7th, 2017, during their show, you start to see the princes of enslaved people working together to bridge the gap between cultures and create a new experience of music using the oldest instrument, the ancestor of the guitar, stacked next to the fucking trumpet played by a New Orleans trumpeter with an Iraqi odist as representatives of something much bigger too. But who got the honor? And if you stack up the humanitarian efforts of Wynton Marsalis and Nasir Shamma, you'll find out exactly why those two men were on stage. I think about these things. All right, I'm going to get a Dr. Pepper. God, you are the fucking king, man. You're king of it all. I am so humbled this morning. This book's going to be It's gonna be mad decent, yo. I promise you. It's just that final chapter. And I could sit here and map out every person's heaven on earth. I could sit here and interview people and then lay out the plan. But then that's not much fun. And it would take me, 7.7 billion people. I'd have to do 7.7 billion different interviews. And I think it'd be a lot more fun. I think it will be a lot more fun. I know it will be a lot more fun when people jump on this themselves. Everything he promised is true. It's just a matter of dropping what you're doing and realizing how fucking important you truly are. Our self-esteem is shot. When I say our, I mean global self-esteem. Oh man, but none of this shit could have happened without Donald J. Trump, a world-wielding drum. To wield something is to use it as a weapon. He uses the world as a weapon via his drum. Takes peace from the earth. Helps people experience just how bad it can get when you have a fucking, you have a white supremacist in office. For this reason, because God had this whole motherfucker clocked. You're gonna end the financial system because it's written in Revelation. You're gonna free everyone. This is gonna be awesome. Think about these things.